Back on politics. It's a few days since the mass murder massacre at Pulse in, was it Orlando, Florida? And I do belong to conspiracy theory groups, but I like to see some evidence first. I don't believe everything without the evidence. And the theory is now going around that, for some reason or another, either mannequins or crisis actors were employed and nobody actually died. Well, this is incredibly easy when you're in Britain, not in America, isn't it? And then again, America's a very big place. I suppose people in New York might actually believe it. If you have no contact with the victims or the victims' families, I suppose you can go around saying things like that. But when it happens in Britain, funnily enough, nobody says, oh, it was crisis actors, it was mannequins. And it astonishes me. Perhaps a decade ago I wouldn't have believed it either. But now it astonishes me that people don't understand exactly how evil our governments, plural, are. I loved Michael Crichton's interview, with which some people will be familiar, except that he insisted that MI5 and MI6 were the good guys and they wouldn't kill anyone, and certainly not their own citizens. Well, I had to give that the horse's laugh. I know damn well they kill their own citizens. I know they kill their own citizens. And, not necessarily VIPs, just anyone they've been told to kill. They're hitmen. That's what they are. So quite why anyone would think that... I don't discount the idea that Pulse could have been an inside job, that it could have been organised by the American government. I don't discount that at all. But I do believe that all the people who are supposedly dead are dead. Let's look at the New World Order eugenics agenda. The nightclub that was hit contained gay people of colour. Well, that's two birds with one stone for a start, isn't it? They were gay and they were people of colour. Prime candidates for eugenics, going back at least a century now. And then again, we do have Delta assassins. MK Ultra, which is documented, by the way, trained, I hope I'm getting this right, I believe I'm a beta. The Deltas were trained to assassinate people. That's what they were trained for. I believe they're the same people who I referred to in the Robin Code. Now, if you've gone to all the trouble of training assassins to kill people and then programming them to kill themselves afterwards, which an amazing number actually do, why would you go to the extra expense of employing actors who might possibly get drunk in a bar late one night, or get drugged in a bar one night, or, I don't know, sleep with a prostitute and she talks about it, they talk about it to her and she talks about it, as per the Perfumer affair. Employing actors is dangerous. Why do it? As I say, you have your trained assassins who will then go on to kill themselves. Problem sorted. This idea of crisis actors and mannequins is never going to get past me. I'm sorry about that one. I'm never going to give it any credence whatsoever. And I don't know why anyone does. Do they seriously think that these evil men we call our governments would not kill real people and real children, as at Sandy Hook? Yes, they do. They believe in Dunblane, interestingly enough, that the kids there were real, but that was in the British Isles. There's a closer connection to them. But no, they don't believe in Sandy Hook. But Sandy Hook is so far away, isn't it? As I say, we can't, go and chat with the victims' families or anything, or the villagers, or wherever the heck. Amazing how everything in America is crisis actors, and everything in Britain is actually real. And today we've had something similar, in my view. A Labour MP called Joe Cox was killed. As far as I know, the man who killed her is still alive. It was immediately politicised. We are in the run-up here to the EU referendum. We have 1 week to go, and surprisingly enough, somebody heard the man who shot and stabbed her. He had mental health problems. What was he doing with a gun in Britain? Shouldn't have had a license for a gun, should he, if he had mental health problems? Was known to have mental health problems, but he did have. In the run-up to the EU, it is claimed that he was heard to shout, "Britain first," which is, of course, an organisation which wants to put Britain first and not immigrants. They want out of the EU. They're definite leavers. And here we have a poor innocent woman shot, I believe, for political reasons, so that it could be blamed on what they have come to call the far right, which we most definitely are not. We're people who want to leave the EU. That's all. Well, some of us may be far right, but I wouldn't call myself that. I'd like our sovereignty back. I'd like to make our own laws again. I'd like to have control over our own borders. I'd like to not have quotas imposed on us from the EU. And in particular, I don't want a federal Europe, because that's the first step towards the New World Order, isn't it? Oh, and I must admit I don't want Islam taking over, because I don't fancy a European caliphate. I've taken a good look at all the other caliphates around the world, and I know what happens to women and children in them. So, Pulse. What's the agenda? God, it kills so many birds with one stone, doesn't it? Whether they got Muslim patsies to do it or not. You've got rid of 50 gays, you've got rid of 50 people of colour, and you can now say, "We want your guns. We're going to disarm you, America," at which point, by the way, watch your step, because you will be defenceless, as were the Germans just prior to Nazism, or at the time of Nazism. They could no longer defend themselves. Now, theoretically, as a former lefty, I should be anti-gun. And certainly the number of deaths in America, gun deaths in America annually, is phenomenal and disgraceful. Should be some gun controls, but I believe in the right to self-defense. And in particular, if we are going to have an Islamic caliphate, and it damn well looks like it, I want to have a gun. Well, I won't be here much longer. I'd like my daughters and granddaughter to have guns. So I think the American agenda is take the guns away. Just so many now, isn't it? You know, they had Sandy Hook, 20, in my belief, real children killed. And now this latest thing at Pulse and so many others. And I do believe that the agenda is disarm American citizens so that they will then have a dictatorship from which they cannot defend themselves. And so many Muslims there now that it's going to be a global Islamic caliphate. And I can't quite see the point of that or where that fits in with the New World Order, really. I'm not sure how it benefits the planet to have only savages left. And I will say that. Because only savages go around beheading people, raping women who are not Muslims, stoning people, mutilating little girls' genitals and little boys, of course, not to the same extent. Well, I hope that's not another ramble, but for me, no such thing as crisis actors, and no mannequins, real dead people, because psychopaths organised it. They don't care who they killed. Life is cheap.